Kalkadosh Boker Or, Daf Yomi Masechet Zevachim, Daf Yud Bet Amud Aleph 12a1 says the Gemara. We just came and we made a hekesh to a lakat nerot, and we're saying that since it's going to be kovea the mektirim the ketorah ben arbaim, and it says uvalot Aaron Torah ben arbaim, so therefore there's a hekesh. So to teach you that the ben arbaim over there is talking about right only ben arbaim and not the entire day. Therefore, you only light the candles of the Chanukiah in the afternoon time and not the entire day. But in other places, maybe Be'emet Ben Arbaim does mean Kol Hayom. Basically, what we were talking about yesterday, we were finishing off by mentioning that it says Ben Arbaim. Ben Arbaim is late afternoon, right? Like Ben Ha'erev, that's Arbaim. Arbaim is Erev. Erev is nighttime, right? So he says that when it says Ben Arbaim, does that mean only towards nighttime? Or does that the entire day as well? So we started going back and forth that sometimes whenever it was written, right, Ben Arbaim, it had to be specifically towards the nighttime. So says the Gemara, Hatam Nami, there also it's written Sham Tizbach at Pesach Ba'arev. When it says you have to be Zoveach at Pesach in the nightfall, in the nighttime. So therefore, that's how we know that the Ben Arbaim should also be Dafka after the afternoon, not the entire day. Meaning, I would have thought, can you do Korban Pesach in the morning? So imagine in the morning, Korban Pesach, can you do it already for the morning? So it says Ben Arbaim. Yeah, but maybe Ben Arbaim still means the entire day. So he says, yeah, but it says Tizbach at Pesach Ba'arev. Ba'arev means in the nightfall, in the nighttime. So in the evening, right? So says the Gemara, Hahu liyuchad davar hudata. He says that ba'erev is coming to teach you yuchad davar. What does that mean? The Tanya, as we learned in a Braita, right? That means it's not teaching you dafka in the afternoon. Yuchad davar shenemar bo ba'erev u'ben arbaim. The davar shelo ne'emar bo ela ben arbaim levad, which is the tamid she ben arbaim. So therefore, since it says erev, an extra erev, so the pasuk is teaching you sheyesh le'acher et haPesach, right? Meaning, you should try to do it as late as possible, right? That's the pshat. Should you acher et ze? You know what? Achar afterwards, right? Achar advarim haele, yeah. Achar advarim, yeah. Afterwards, acher, right? Acher et ze. Okay. So says the Gemara, right? Umi kamid dilu shachit lemitzafra amarta zimnehu lechimet ben arbaim, right? Yuchar davar. He says, does there exist such a thing that if you did it in the morning, it's still the proper time? But then when it gets to Ben Arbaim, you should still do it as late as possible? How does that make sense? Where's the logic? You just told me you have Korban Pesach. Remember, Korban Pesach is always Erev Pesach. Okay? Korban Pesach is on Erev Pesach. And then they would eat it the night of Pesach. Right? So now, does it make sense that you're going to tell me that if you did it in the morning of Erev Pesach, it's kosher? Why? Because that's the proper time. But once it becomes afternoon, try to do it as late as possible.
Well, that's it. First, it makes sense to me because
why does it make
sense?
Answers the Gemara it does exist. You know why? Tamar Rabbi Yochanan says, Halacha, mitpalel shel mincha, ve'achar kach mitpalel shel musafim. This is a very interesting halacha.
Indeed.
What happens if a person is on Shabbat and they didn't pray musaf? And all of a sudden now, musaf lechatchila, you should pray before 7 hours, right? The 7th hour into a day, right? But let's say, for example, I didn't pray. You walk into shul, they're doing mincha now. What should I do? Should I do musaf now? What? No. You walk into shul and right now they're going to be doing mincha. They're doing mincha gdola. Now, I still didn't do musaf. Should I do musaf first, right, and mincha later on? Or should I do mincha now and then musaf? What should I do?
The answer is, as long as there's going to be enough time after this mincha for you to do the musaf, then that's what you have to do.
Yeah, so he's... Yeah, they're betzibur. They're doing mincha. So says halacha, mitpalel shel mincha. You first say mincha, and then afterwards you do musaf, right? Now, he says, 1 second, but when did musaf start? From the morning. When did mincha start? Mincha doesn't start from the morning. Mincha starts now. So you see from here that there does exist such a concept that like the Korban Pesach, meaning if you did it in the morning, it's still going to be okay. But once it gets to the afternoon, now you have to do it later on in the afternoon. So there does exist such a concept like a musaf. It's like a Korban Musaf. That you have the musaf you could bring already for the morning. But if you didn't do it until now, right now, do the mincha and then do the musaf later on. So there does exist such a concept. Okay? Fine. So says the Gemara. Yeah? So now it says the Gemara as follows. So says the Gemara, Ben Arbaim dichtiv gabe ketor v'nerot lamali. So why does it say Ben Arbaim by the ketoret and by the nerot? Meaning, if you're going to tell me now, right, that we just said Then when it says Merevat Boker, and we're making a kesh for the Ketoret and the Nerot, so it comes out, why does it say Ben Arbaim? So Be'odin, furthermore, Shiv Rebbe Tachat Ben B'Tera Yeshua. Right? Rebbe answered instead of Ben B'Tera to Rav Yoshua. And he says, no. Im amarta b'shosha asar she'en miksato ra'ui tomar be'arba asar she'miksato ra'ui. He says the 13th is not fitting for anything, but the 14th is fitting. Vim ita, now if you're going to tell me according to Rav Oshia, kulo ra'ui, the 14th is fitting for Akravat Pesach. Meaning like this, on the 13th of Nisan, can you bring the Korban Pesach? No. What about the 14th? So part of it is fitting for the Korban. What time? Afternoon. So he says, why are you only saying afternoon? Only part of it. According to you, it's the entire day. So it's not part of it. It's the entire 14th. Right? What do you mean only part of it? So Rabbi Yochanan says, he says, really, be'emet, it's going to be pasul. Why? Because since part of it is going to be right fitting for the Korban Pesach, so therefore that's why it's only going to be part of it. It's not the entire day. So Megadef ba Rabbi Yevu. So Rabbi Yevu comes and he asks, if so, Pesach kasher b'mitera. So what was the case then? It's going to be a Pesach
slaughtering it for not for its own sake.
No. Here it's for its own sake, right? Whether it's for its own sake or not for its own sake. But now what we're talking about though is that you could only do it in the afternoon. So the question is, so then what's the kosher Pesach then? So Ida Frashina, if you separated it now on the 14th, Dachui Mikarahu. So it's already pushed off. Why? Because once you consecrated it, it's still not fitting to bring it until the afternoon. V'Ida Frashim, now if you separate it from yesterday, Nid Even Idchehu. So it was fitting to bring it, but then it became Dachui, it became pushed off. Elmaleh Biyavu says you're right. It's only after Chatzot, meaning that it's only going to be after Chatzot that you came and you separated and you brought it. Because remember, according to the Shita, you could only bring it after Hasot, afternoon. Abaye says, Afilu Teima Mitzaf. Right? Even you're going to tell me it's going to be in the morning. En Mechusar Zman Levo Bayom. Right? There's not going to be Mechusar Zman for that day. So Rav Papa comes and he says, Afilu Teima Meorta. Even you're going to tell me in the nighttime, right? Laila En Mechusar Zman. The nighttime is not going to be considered Mechusar Zman. Meaning, what about the night of the 14th? So he says that's not considered Mechusar Zman. It's not considered Dachui. Because since anyway you can't bring korbanot in the nighttime, so the nighttime does not push anything off. It's only in the morning that it's bad, because you can't bring it in the morning. There it could be mechus. It's a problem. He says Led Shmini. We know that when you want to come and you want to bring a korban, how old is the minimum for an animal to be in order to bring a korban? Huh?
Yeah. That'll be a full week, no?
We just say that on this. We're going to read it again on Sukkot. Shivat yamim tachat imo miyom hashemini v'hala yiratzeh lekorbani shel Adonai miyom hashemini v'hala, from the 8th day onward.
That's why I said a full week.
Okay, yes, a full week he has to be with the mother, and then from the 8th day onwards, that's when you could bring a korban. Meaning you don't bring a korban less than 8 days. So it says here belel hashmini, on the night of the 8th day. Nichnas, exactly. Nichnas dilita said. Like Rabbi Rami. He has to be 7 days with the mother. Halayla, for the nighttime chazi, right? It's fitting. And it's written only from the 8th day you could do it. Halayla lo chazi. So the nighttime is not chazi. So how does it work then? If you're telling me 7 days, it already passed 7 days. Now it's the 8th night. And why did you say then only from the 8th day? Miyom hashmini v'hala yiratzeh. Ma kara lalayla shel hashmini? Az yesh lecha stira. You understood the stira, right? The stira is as follows. You told me that the animal has to be 7 days with the mother. Mashma, on the 8th night. Can you bring it? Yes, because you already finished 7 days. But then you told me the next pasuk that only from the 8th day you could bring it. What about the 8th night? No. So it should make up your mind. Yeah? So he comes and he says, Ha keitzad, laila ligdusha v'yom l'tzah. You're right. You could consecrate it from the nighttime. But then during the daytime, you actually bring it. That's the explanation. Just like what Rachel said before. So Elmaleh Rabbi Zera, Rabbi Yevu, says Rabbi Zera to Rabbi Yevu, Lema kasav Rabbi Yochanan, ba'alei chayim nidchim. So comes out what? That he's going to tell me that the ba'alei chayim are going to be pushed off? Elmaleh, he says, yes. Tamar Rabbi Yochanan says, Rabbi Yochanan, Mema shel shnei shutufim, when you have an animal of 2 partners, v'igdish chetzia, v'chazar v'lakach chetzia, you consecrated half of it, and then you bought it from the other half. Igdisha, then you actually consecrate it as well. Kedosha, it is going to be holy. Vena kriva, but you can't bring it. The asat will set tmuna, you make a substitute. Tmunataka, it's but it has to be like it as well. Everyone understood what happened? One more time. I've got two partners, right? One of them consecrated it. It's still nothing because the other half still belongs to the other guy. He comes and he buys it from his partner, and now he consecrates the second half. So now he consecrated the full animal, but it was in two halves. Since it was done in two halves, it's kodesh, but you can't bring it as a korban. Because since when you consecrated the first time, you can't bring it as a korban because it still has another half, which is chulin. So therefore, you cannot bring it the way that it is. So you have to actually sell it, get the money, and then get another korban. That's called a tumura. You're making a substitute.
They brought this idea earlier.
Yes, they did. Ushma minatlat. So we learned three things from here. Number one, balei chayim nidchin, that animals are pushed off, right? And not only by shchita, right? That means basically mamash, it's going to be pushed off. Number two, that even if it's dachui from the beginning, dachui means pushed off. Even if it's going to be pushed off from the beginning, it's still considered pushed off. Number three, also we learned, Yudbet Amubet 12b, Yesh dichui bedamim, right? There's Torah dichui even in money, Kidushat damim. That means we're not going to say it's dafka in something like, for example, in the body, even in the money. Because here, what was lacking? What was lacking was that half of the value of this animal didn't belong to me, it belonged to my partner. So if you see that there's such a concept as dichui in damim, in money even, not only in the body, meaning that you're going to say, right now it had a blemish, and then afterwards it became better, and so on and so forth, right? No. Fine. Next. Amar Ula, Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Says Ula in the name of Rabbi Yochanan. So Amar Ula, Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Says Ula in the name of Rabbi Yochanan. Achal chelev v'ifrish korban. He ate chelev by accident. Remember the prohibited fats. He separated a korban fchatat. Vehemid dat, and all of a sudden it became a mumar. Yeah, so therefore he didn't even bring the korban. He separated the korban, but he didn't bring it. You know what that means? He went off the derech, right? It's called OTD, no? No, that they say on the derech. No, but he went off the derech, the same thing, right? He went off the derech. So he comes and he says, right, v'chazarbo, then he retracted. How does he become a mumar? The guy that ate the chelev. The guy that a person comes, Mr. A, right? Yeah, let's not give names, right? But Mr. A comes and he ate chelev. He has to bring a korban. He separates the korban, he goes off the derech. He didn't bring it yet, but he went off the derech. All of a sudden, chazar b'tshuva. Baruch Hashem, aseret tshuva. He was chazar b'tshuva. He took an extra half a minute for the Hamidah. Yeah, so it's chazar b'tshuva. So now what happens? Now what happens is that now what's going to happen? Chazar bo hoi v'nidcha yidche. But once the korban was pushed off, it's pushed off. He can't bring that korban anymore. Because basically, since when he went off the derech, he can't bring a korban. So if it was already pushed off. So once it's pushed off, it's pushed off. Itman Nami is also stated. Amar Rabbi Yirmiyah bar Amar Rabbi Vu. Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Says Rabbi Yirmiyah. Says Rabbi Yirmiyah in the name Rabbi Avu, in the name of Rabbi Yochanan. Achal chelev, right? V'ifrish korban. He comes and he says he ate chelev and they separated the korban. Nishtata. And then the guy becomes crazy. Yeah? There's no elections. Chazar v'nishtafa. Right? He comes and he says, Hoil v'nidche, yidche. It's going to be pushed off. It's going to be pushed off. Yeah? Utsriche. And we need them. What do you mean we need them? You heard we need them. He says, Diyashvin kamaita, as if we only learned to the first one, right? Which is basically talking about the person that became a mumar. Mishum dehu dachi nafshev, he pushed himself off. Everyone understood what happened when the person went off the derech. Yeah, we're talking about going off the derech. He himself pushed himself off the derech. So therefore, he himself did it. He says here, he became crazy, right? It wasn't that he himself made himself crazy. It wasn't that the guy when he took drugs, I don't know what. No, he himself became. So it's like he's dreaming, he's sleeping. If it was only talking about the case of that he went crazy.
Different cases.
Different case. It's different cases. Mishum dem bi'ado lachzor. Right? When a guy becomes crazy, he can't do teshuvah. He can't become better. Say he's crazy. What do you want him to do? That's it. There's nothing. Here, he could do teshuvah. Right? There's always a possibility of doing teshuvah. What can we do? Yeah. He says you could always right help him. He could help himself to do teshuvah. Melai would say no. So tzricha, that's what you need them. So by Rabbi Yirmiyah comes and he asks the following question: Achal chelev v'ifrish korban. What means if you ate chelev? Again, you ate the prohibited fats and you separated a korban. V'uru bedin shechelev mutar. Then all of a sudden the bedin comes and say it's mutar, right? V'chazu ben, and then they retracted. What's halacha? You say it's a dichui or not a dichui? Everyone understood. Meaning he went and he did the Avirah. But then they said, no, that was fine. So now he doesn't have to bring the Korban anymore. Then they returned, no, it was not fine. So I now he needs to bring it again. So is that considered a push off or not? Is it considered that they pushed it off or not? So Amaleu Sabba. There was a Sabba that he came and he said, Kipatach Rabbi Yochanan Medichyuin, Mehapatach. He used to start from here. My time, what's the reasoning? Hatam Gavra Idche, Korban lo Idche. Hacha Korban Nami Idche. He says there's a difference between the Gavra and the Korban. He says when you're talking about the Gavra as the man, the human being, is because he himself became a mumar or he himself became a shotek, somebody that's incapable, right? He says the korban was not pushed off. Here, when the bedin came and they gave a psak, the korban itself was pushed off, right? And therefore, nobody could be mitchayev a korban in such a case then. So that's why there's a big difference between the case of the person going off the derech or becoming crazy and the other case, which is basically the bedin paskening that it was okay because then the korban itself was pushed off. It wasn't the human being. Amar Shimon ben Azai, says Shimon ben Azai, remember we said that he had a Kabbalah. Yeah, he has a Kabbalah from 72 Zekenim. Why does he have a 72 Zekenim? He says because all of them were in the same Shita. Meaning all of them came on the same Shita, which is a miracle. Right? Remember, you have 2 Jews and 3 opinions. You understand? Here, you have 72 people, and every single one held the exact same thing. Then in itself, that's why he says there's a Kabbalah from the Shivim V'Shnayim Zekenim. Kulam amru oto davar. Yeah? Right, because remember, you have one guy that today he comes and he tells you, why did you speak too long? And another day, you have to speak lower. Another day, you take this longer. Another day, you got 20 million opinions. Yeah, here was Hechal. So lo osif Ben Azai ela olah. Now Ben Azai only added on the olah to the chatat and the pesach. You remember we said that only the chatat and the pesach, if you had the kavanah for something else, you're not going to be say chovah. So the Ben Azai, he added on also, besides the chatat, the sin offering, and the pesach, he added on the korban olah, the burnt offering. So Amar Ravuna says, my Tamad Ben Azai, what's the reasoning of Ben Azai? It says olah hu leisherach nichach laHashem ki lishma kshera shelo lishma psula. So when it says olah hu, that it's an olah, it has to be kasher. In order for it to be kasher, it has to be for an olah. And if it's not going to be kosher. So says the Gemara, Asham is also written who, right? Asham who? Says no. There, the word who is only written after they already brought the limbs to the mizbeach. It's not written before. Meaning there it's written the olah who before. Right? So it's written olahi, right? Olahu, right? So he comes and he says, Hainami, it's also written after Aktarat Emorim. So he comes and he says, Trei hu k'tive. There's 2 who's, right? So he says also by the Asham, it's also written 2 who's, yeah. So he says, Ela Ben Azai, he learns it from Kavachomer, right? Uma chatat shena kalif, just like a korban chatat is not completely consumed. If you did it shelo lishma, it's psula, an olah that is completely consumed. It shouldn't be kosher again, that it should be not kosher if you didn't do it for the olah. So answers the Gemara, Malach chatat shekem mechaber. What are you talking about? The chatat is for an atonement. So you can't compare an chatat to an olah. The olah only atones for what? An olah. An olah. Positive commandment. So if a person didn't do Birkat Kohanim, that's a positive commandment. So that's Korban Olah. But if it's going to be
sin and Avera,
Chatat. So Pesach Yochiach. The Pesach is going to come and to prove it. Mala Pesach. What's going to be to the Pesach Shken Zmano Kavua? But the Pesach has a fixed time. So he says Chatat Tochiach. He says the Chatat is going to be Tochiach. Chasar Adin. Lo reizeh kerizeh 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 hatzad hashavet shebehen. You remember what this means? Whenever we use the terminology lo reizeh kerizeh lo reizeh, this one is not like this one's not like that one.
Yes.
It's called a binyan av. What do you mean a binyan av? Each one I cannot compare, because each one has a stringency and a leniency. But what I do is I make common denominator. So I called a binyan av. Binyan av is like a building block of a father to come and to learn to other things as well. So it's called a binyan av. So he comes and he says, right? Atzad HaShavat. What's the Atzad HaShavat between a Chatat and a Pesach? Meaning, what's the common denominator between a Chatat and Pesach? Remember, a Pesach has a fixed time. A Chatat does not. A Chatat is a kapara, an atonement. A Pesach is not. So it means even though they're both here, I cannot compare them to each other. But there's a common denominator between them. What's the common denominator between them? They're kodshim. That they're holy foods. And if you did it shalom lishma, it's going to be pasul. So therefore he says, so I could add an olah then, that it's also kodshim. Maybe you do it shalom lishma, it's going to be pasul. So he says, yeah, but mad tzad shavat shebehen, they have karet. Meaning, right? There's karet would involve. What does that mean? If you don't bring a korban pesach, what do you chayav? karet. What happens if a person, to do a chatat, what do you need? It's not only a sin offering. It's only that you did it by accident, but if you would have done it on purpose, you would have been chayav karet. So therefore, he comes and he says, the common denominator between Pesach and Chatat is karet. You're right, each one on their own, you can compare, because the Chatat is mechaper, atones. The Pesach is not mechaper. But mitzad sheni, the Pesach is a fixed time. The Chatat is not a fixed time. So I cannot compare them to each other. But the common denominator is that they're kodshim. So kodshim, if you don't bring it for lishma, so it's pasul. So bring the olah. Says the Gemara, what are you talking about? The Chatat and the Pesach have a common denominator that there's karet involved. There's no karet involved in olah. There's no karet in olah. That's exactly why. Since there's no karet in olah, that's why I can't compare the olah to the Pesach and the Chatat. That's why Pesach and Chatat is a league of its own, and then olah is a different league. That's what they're saying. So says Ben Azai, right? Yud Gimel Amud Aleph, 13a1 on the top. Ben Azai, Tzad karet lo parich. He didn't ask from karet. Right? Meaning that he didn't care about this concept of the karet or whatever it is. So Hisham Naiti, Lami Laiti, why don't you bring Hasham? So he says, Hasham parich, he says the Hasham, right? You could ask that there's going to be also by a tzibur and also by a yachid. Meaning like this. Korban Pesach and Korban Chatat is brought also by a yachid and also by a tzibur. An Hasham is not brought by a tzibur. It's only brought by an individual, right? By individuals, not by the tzibur. So therefore, that's why he's trying to say that you cannot compare the Asham, which is a guilt offering, which means that you did it on purpose, but it's a guilt offering. You can't compare it to the Asham to a Chatat and a Pesach. So if you want, you can also answer, and also, you also have the concept of karet, meaning in Asham there's no karet. Chatat and thing, there's karet. Right? He had this masoret. Now you said the kavachomen. The only reason why he brought a kavachomen was to sharpen his students. Many times the rabbis would come and try to sharpen their students in order that they should always, be paying attention, right? That they should be, if not, then they become all rusty. You understand? So you want to sharpen them up. That's why he said it. But really, Be'emet, he had a masoret. And that's why with that masoret, it already changed